Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Girls Last Tour, episode 11. We are at the penultimate episode, and it kind of doesn't really feel that way to me. I don't know about you, but for me, there has been this incredible aura, this idea that, this series kind of doesn't feel like it has a beginning or an end. It doesn't feel like this is something with a destination. Yes, we have a rough destination, which is going to be the general, like the top of the city that we are looking for, that we want to reach. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like this is something that has a proper conclusion. In many ways, the series does feel like it doesn't end. It feels like there is no real conclusion to the series, but rather that the series itself, the journey that we're taking without having the destination, without having the general goal that you normally have in a series, is a commentary on, on the wonders and the strangeness of human civilization and human life, on the dynamics of relationships, on the way the human mind understands things, and the way human curiosity works. It is, in many ways, it shows two characters which are kind of different on many levels. It shows characters which have different general modes of operation that complement each other very well, as we've said the last time, but at the same time also kind of show two different archetypes of characters that one would see a lot in humanity. And I do think that that is a very interesting thing to observe, right? She, with her carefulness, with her planning, with her love for things that are written down, her love of knowledge, especially practical knowledge as well, her love of history and trying to keep kind of a history of their own journey, and even just like the thing with the photo, like with the camera, which has been her thing, even though Yu has been engaging in it as well. It has been mostly her thing. So it feels like this contrasts to what we see in Yu, who is above all else very focused on the external, very focused on the here and now, very focused on stuff like food and being bored or having fun, right? Like being busy and kind of a silly goofball, as opposed to Chi, who is more like serious and whatnot. We contrast these abilities, but kind of just at the same time we differentiate. At the same time that we differentiate them, we also kind of show that those are two ways that these characters, these people have adapted to the unique environment that they have found themselves in. And through their lens, through their unique perspectives and the way they process information, through the way they observe things and comment on things and bounce off of each other, we are understanding the world, and we are understanding kind of the worldview of the mangaka. Though I do feel like if you look at the art style, if you look at the way we approach things with some kind of almost like silliness and whimsy and goofiness and a very cute way to express things, which I feel like I can't express properly but is uniquely Japanese. It almost feels like these are things that we can gain or gauge from the author. that they are a person who is anything but nihilistic, right? I do feel, right? I don't get the nihilistic or like doomer feeling from the person creating this world. There's a unique beauty that they always highlight in both nature as well as the creation of men. We have a unique eye on the destructiveness that wars and conflicts can bring, but at the same time we do have this tranquility in a destroyed, desolate world that is left behind two individuals who were like walking through it. It doesn't feel depressing. It feels like a wondrous world that we're striding through. It feels like things are a lot more peaceful now that humans are mostly gone. It feels like even the robots that have been programmed to do what the humans programmed them to do, even they function without the presence of the humans. And they have their own purpose because that is what they've been told to do. The world exists and it persists without the presence of humans. And yet there's so much that has been left behind of humanity, right? So many traces of who we were and what we have left on this earth, that being art and design, and many of these things have been functional and practical, right? Like designs that are meant to make things more efficient, designs that are meant to serve a certain purpose, designs that also uniquely kind of maybe express the character of the people who have been prototyping them, the scientists that are behind an invention of a robot or a plane, right? That are behind the invention of certain kinds of food and rations and whatnot. People who have been building this temple. I'll be very curious because I've like read, I think one of the comments of Vincent was that there was some deviation or like some additional context that the manga gives when it comes to stuff like the temple and other scenes. So I'm very curious to see what that additional detail would reveal to us. But I think in many ways the series has been very coherent and very good at having like a coherent image of what they want to present, right? Architecture, characters, they've all been presented in a very kind of weird and like very quirky way, right? Like they've been artistically displayed in ways that you maybe wouldn't necessarily expect them to be displayed. They've been used, right? That even just the design of the cameras, the design of the technical devices that we have, the design of the weird robots with the stilt-like legs and whatnot. A very different perspective on what a world could look like. The houses that stand on like legs, like bird houses, right? Like a birdhouse in a tree or something. That surely did serve some purpose. Labyrinths of pipes that connect to one another that were all part of a certain system, right? That you could go through, but also at the same time was maybe used for like plumbing purposes or like transportation of goods and water and whatnot. The way that the environment is almost partially hostile to human beings, right? The elevators and all of that stuff. It almost feels like it's more to transport stuff and less to transport people. And yet I do feel like there's this weird like nonchalantness that we approach the world with, right? This whatever happens, this, hey, I'm very curious about all of these things, but sad things don't necessarily drag me down and keep me sad. funny or elating things don't necessarily keep my spirits up, right? I'm going through the world, and while it does interest me and it does touch me and I do have empathy, it kind of doesn't affect me as deeply as it would maybe you and me going through a world like that with the experiences we have made in our modern life. So it's a very curious, very interesting series, and as a result of that, I do also feel though that it is a series that is very hard to take apart, very hard to analyze, very hard to look at the character and be like, okay, these are like fundamental character traits or motivations beyond obviously what's on the surface, which is the things I already talked about regarding Chito and regarding you. Yeah, I don't know. It will be very interesting to see how they conclude the story, if they like definitively conclude it, or if it's gonna be more like a whatever, right? Like this is the last episode. It's like any other episode, and we have kind of like a theme and whatnot. And it just ends. And it will be interesting to see what the manga does with the ending, what the parts that didn't make it in the end. But yeah, it's very hard for me as like a psychologist and person to talk about these things. It's easier to talk about something like a monster series, or even like something like a bocce, or something like a Frieren, because there are like, even though Frieren, for example, has a lot of deep themes, they are not as abstracted, I feel, right? They're not displayed as abstractly as they are here in Girls Last Tour. Maybe the closest that we can get is Technolize, but Technolize is a whole different kind of abstract, and also very, very grim, as opposed to this like almost elating and lightheartedness that Girls Last Tour approaches all of these existential questions with. It's almost like we've gone through the Great Depression of the Great Catastrophe of humanity basically more or less dying out, and we've come out the other side with kind of almost an uncaring attitude towards all of that, because it's something we never knew. It's something that we've never, right, as the characters, something that was never part of our reality. Yeah, I mean that is about probably almost all I have to say about that, and we'll see how this series continues and concludes in the next episode. I'm not gonna watch the next episode today, mainly because I want to give it breathing room. I'm probably gonna give it some like a week or maybe even 10 days to get back into it, and give that last episode a whirl, and then we'll let it sit for a while, and then we'll pick up the manga and whatnot. Yeah, I do hope you still enjoy what I have to say and what I want to talk about, because there's a lot of things that I find very interesting and very cool about the series, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But it's a series that lives more with the atmosphere and lives more with silence, rather than it does live through words and tell and like every series having a deeper meaning. It's kind of almost antithetical to stuff like, for example, Monogatari, which loses itself in wordplay and words and kind of high-strung philosophy concepts that we throw back and forth in some kind of Socratic dialogue. All it is, well, Girls Last Tour is going in the absolute opposite direction with it. It feels more like a it feels less like a Plato, and more, let me think. Feels less like a Plato, and it feels more, what does it feel like? I mean, it's unique, definitely, but there's stuff that you can compare it to. I wouldn't say Nietzsche, because Nietzsche goes into a lot of prose as well, right? And like but more so, right, because it plays more with imagery than it does with clear, logical dialogue or monologue. I think it would maybe even just go in the direction of something akin to a Lovecraftian story or something. It's not horror, it's not like grim and dark and scary and spooky or otherworldly, but it plays a lot with images and feelings and atmosphere. And in that way, it is very tranquil, actually. At least that's how I've experienced, how I've been experiencing the series, despite all like the fight for survival that's always hanging above us, like the sort of Damocles. There is not a lot of stress that we experience, and even though Cheeto certainly has these stressful points, the whimsy of her interactions with you still kind of frames everything in a very like fun discovery, curiosity journey kind of way. Even though we learn some very important, interesting life lessons, we'll kind of like get these little points where our thoughts are starting to kind of flow. What is humanity? What is life? Right? How do we? Who are we in relation to other things, to other beings? Right? How does the world work? How did the world work? Why did it work the way it did? It's almost like a post-mortem on modernity, right? It's like a post-mortem on humanity as it exists today, or as it existed maybe 10 or 20 years ago, depending on when the author actually started writing the story. Anyway, like without any further ado, we're gonna go into the next episode. I've got it up right here, and we got the full subtitles. We got Japanese text. We're gonna start in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. And we have a little companion. What the hell did it eat? That's not good for it. Again, the OP is super creative. It's so amazing that we have these elements in there. Like the way they abstract the world is very creative. It's very fun to look at. I literally have to get like this OP reaction. Let me actually, maybe I'll check it next week. See if I can release it. I mean, you all on Patreon have seen my OP reaction. What the hell? It's forming real sentences. I wonder what it is, like if it's like a lab creation or if it's something that naturally occurred in this world. I mean, we don't know enough about the world to see what kind of like living things used to be. It's learning. (12.7 caliber. 20. She's just like, what the hell is she doing? You're gonna choke. What are we looking at? Ooh, it's a book. War and Human Civilization. That could be interesting. Oh, it's not the usual words. Yes, I didn't even realize that. It's English. Old, far off. She's gonna pack that and make, like, try to eat that. We're teasing. Of course. She is so excited. She is so excited. I love it. Ecology. Mm-hmm. Most of them. Wow, what a sentence. Mm-hmm. She's making a good point. Looks like a lot of gears. Ooh. Okay, what is that? Like solar panels or... It's reflecting, definitely. It is pretty cool. It is so intelligent. Okay. Again, it reminds me so much of Nier, like the music. I'm always bumping the camera. I need to find a solution for that. It kind of is sometimes. People like you who created culture. That's an interesting thought. Mm-hmm. I mean, it actually did. I get out of there. Get the hell out. Is it a robot destroying something? Holy shit. Oh, that is a large humanoid robot. Yeah, it looks kind of like really mecha-like with like even a spine. Oh, I totally forgot those. Oh, is it like... Can it be controlled? Wait, you're a power source? What? Hello? You can control these things? Okay, what are you? What the hell are you, Cut? That that's a joystick. Oh, okay. Just casually firing weapons of mass destruction. He was like, let me do it again. Holy shit. So we do have giant lasers. Damn. I hope nobody was walking there. Fire. That is a lot. That's a big fire. Crazy. Yeah, I thought so. You can't put that fire back out.
ちの銃とは比べ物にならないな。これも古代の人たちが作ったものなのかな。
Must have.
が壊れているのもこんな強すぎる兵器のせいなのかもね。こいつのせいなのか。許せん。いや、悪いのは兵器じゃなくて使う人間だから。
Mm-hmm.
これも人が乗って動かすものだろうし。
Yeah.
マジか。最低だな人間。よくも町を。お前だよ。今思いっきり壊しただろうが。そうでした。私めよくも町を。自分には優しいな。あ、ぬこ。
I mean, she shouldn't be.
よしよし。今日はここで寝るか。火を見ながら。あんまり外に出ると危なそうだし。
Fuel tanks, other stuff, it's just exploding. Ooh, automated fire control systems? It's crazy that it's built in because that means that this kind of thing is expected.
やっぱりヘルメットはかぶっといた方がいいよね。なんで？だってほら、爆弾とか光線が飛んでくるかもしれないし。
The helmet's not gonna help you in that case.
それは死ぬって。でも。
I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess.
これって雨なのかな。都市の下にいるんだから雨じゃないだろう。
Ooh, she's drawing. Mm-hmm. It looks like it. Are these like were these revered? Ooh, we got some like horizontal wind turbines.
もう出ないのか。本体は満タンだけど予備は7割って感じだね。まあいいか。燃料うまいか。うまい。ぬこはいいなあ。食べ物がそこら中にあって。ありがてえ。私だっていざとなったら。またこいつを食べようとか思ってるんじゃないだろうな。思ってないよ。白くてもちもちして美味しそうなんて。絶対火薬とオイルの味だぞ。火薬美味しいかもしれないじゃん。じゃあもう火薬食べろよ。
Yeah, go eat it, you. A wind power plant. Yeah.
そのうち私のことまで食べたいとか言い出すんじゃないだろうな。ひらめいたみたいなやつやめろ。それがあれでしょ。食物連鎖ってやつ。二人で回すのきつすぎる。この場合誰が一番なんだろう。森。何それ。前に本の挿絵で見た景色に似てる。
Ooh, the power plant looks like a forest.
こんな感じに植物がたくさん生えててさ。森か。きっと生き物がたくさんいて食物連鎖もあったんだよ。でもどうして今みたいな感じになったんだろう。
That is the question.
さあ、長い時間をかけて変わっていったんだろうけど、昔のことはわからないな。
We don't.
それこそ本ぐらいでしかね。あ、でもさ、昔のことはわかんなくても未来のことならわかるよね。時間が経てば。
I guess we can.
そう、生きていればね。あ、そっか、 死んじゃったらダメか。あんまり遠くの先のことはわかんないだろうな。
Yeah, just a little bit like just in the immediate future. This is turning philosophical. What are we looking at? Ooh, a submarine. Does that mean there was an ocean here? It's kind of weird to have a submarine right here. It is kind of a weapon, yes. What is this music? Open sesame. Why can't it open all of these technological things? What the hell? It can eat gunpowder, it can drink fuel, it can open technological things. Was it humans killing each other, or did the robots kill each other? Kill the humans? I mean, it was silent. It was still humans killing each other, don't get me wrong, but... Ooh, nuclear stuff. Probably the propulsion drive, yeah. The radiation, no. I'm getting nervous. Ooh, that's it. So this is a two-parter. Right, end this time. Okay, what do I even talk about? We've talked so much during the episode, so I'm not sure what to talk about, but let's run it back and see, I guess. All right, really some really cool shots, right? The bullet. Wait, just mute and speed up. The bullet. It's eating bullets. Help! It's eating our ammunition. The question is, was it a creation, right? Like kind of like it can interface with all of our technology. It can eat bullets, right? Which is not rations, which would mean that humans are not like don't have to share the rations with it, right? It can drink fuel. At the same time, you're like, okay, those are resources we need as well, right? To propel our tanks, to fuel our weapons, to shoot our shots. So the question is, and why are there statues like that all around the place? Why do we is this some kind of war cult? Have we gone over to revere beings which are the incarnation of war? Or is that just a coincidence? Why is it so attuned to our technology? Why can it talk in frequencies? Why can it understand and locate where frequencies are coming from, right? Crazy stuff. Meanwhile, we are always choosing very interesting angles for stuff. And we're teaching it stuff, right? It is capable of learning. It's intelligent, reacts to questions like a normal human would react to questions. It is an intelligent life form. We got a book, War and Human Civilization, and it's in English. Not the usual language that we've been reading, like the glyphs that we had so far. Very interesting, very curious. Also curious because I think if I think back onto the last episode, the train actually had A5, right? So it's using Latin alphabet as like the stations, which is very interesting. That's something we also didn't have before. And she can't read it, but she thinks it's valuable nonetheless because she has internalized for herself the value of books to her, imparting knowledge, passing it on to the next generation, right? A chronicle of the past, a guide for the future. And we'll come back to that later, right? When we talk about past and future. Maybe you can talk about it now because it was just like a quick conversation. We don't know much about the past. Very little. And then we talk about like, we don't know much about the far future. We can only see a little bit into the immediate future. And why can we do that? Because we have pattern recognition and we have learned behavior. And if we think about them thoroughly, we can realize why do we do the things that we do, and most of the time they have a functionality, right? Behavior is being learned and upkept by a simple system in the human brain, which is the human reward system, right? Our brain rewards us for behavior that is beneficial to us. The problem is obviously there can be things that can be beneficial to us in the immediate future, but they're not beneficial to us in the far future. And then the conflict starts because short-term rewards are coded way more into our behavior than long-term rewards. And yet it is often those long-term rewards that are very important for our survival, that are very important for our success. They are very important for our goals, especially in a world that is as complex as the one we are in here now. Now for Cheeto and you, it is a little bit different because most of their goals are in the immediate future. And the primary goal, all of that is underneath, is survival, right? We do have this hierarchical structure, which is survival, and then everything comes underneath. Observation of immediate surroundings, being really, really into food, thinking about the next day and planning it out, being anxious about things falling from the sky. All of these things, they help us survive, right? In cognitive behavior therapy, we would talk about plans, right? Like where these immediate, like, I want to eat something, right? I want to collect books, right? What is like the central thing that's above that, right? The central plan that is above that. And there's different like hierarchical levels that we can separate that into, but the boundaries of that are blurry, right? We don't need to adhere strict rules for that. All we kind of need to know is what is actually like what central goal is above the immediate goal that I have. The immediate goal in this case being I like eating food, right? Like everything, like I want to eat everything that looks and smells delicious. And then there's like, I need food to survive. Why do I want to survive? And then you'll have to look into a higher goal than that, right? Like maybe I want to reach a goal. It's just like I enjoy living, right? I am curious. All of these things, right? And obviously in therapy you look at these plans mostly as an element of plan analysis, where you are trying to find out why people are showing certain behaviors that are maybe not as beneficial for them, or problem behaviors that kind of cause issues for them, why they are showing these, and what underlying needs and desires kind of fuel those. And then we are trying to find a way to change those underlying like schemes and desires and needs and goals, right? And turn them into goals that are practical enough and that are functional enough to actually allow them to lead a less dysfunctional life. In this case, Chi and Yu are not dysfunctional. Chi and Yu are very efficient in what they're doing. They're surviving pretty well. They're surviving pretty long. They take care of one another. They take care of themselves. They have mastered their survival strategies. But it's still interesting to look at what fuels them and how do they understand the world, and why do they behave the way that they behave, right? And there can be multiple reasons for that, right? Multiple functionalities, multiple plans that are above that. And you can't always just like strip it down to one central thing. But in many ways, they do serve the purpose, in this case, of survival. She loves books. Why does she love books? Because she loves reading about the past and about how things were. And why does she like to do that? Well, because it gives her a better idea, a more secure understanding of the world around her. And why does that help? Because it helps her survive. And it helps her plan ahead for the future and start understanding the past to plan ahead for the future. There's other reasons too, right? Personal enjoyment, hedonism is a real like personal joy of doing something, but there's obviously even a functionality to that reward system, right? Why do we play video games? Because it's a lot of fun to solve problems. It's a lot of fun to overcome a challenge. It is a lot of fun to get immersed in stories and lore and worlds and understand them and imagine them. Imagination is the fuel for creativity, right? So these things are rewarded by our brain because they are inherently very human behaviors. Curiosity, imagination, problem solving. She can't read it, but she's still taking it. She's like, you don't know the value of books. And then Yu's teasing, just like, I'll always take stuff that isn't necessary. You tell me not to. But here you are doing the same thing. Poke, poke. Which is kind of just a way for them to interact, right? Like she's kind of being a little bit amused by it, and she's kind of teasing Chi with it because she knows how Chi reacts to that teasing. If she doesn't go too far. Sometimes she goes off the rails and then she's like, that wasn't cool. And she realizes that oftentimes. She's like, I'm sorry. See that later with the robot, right? that look. Yeah. I love the angles, right? Top-down angle, close-up, side shot. Weird things, right? Just like it looks like we saw like a wind turbine, like a wind park. This almost looks like it's some kind of like solar clock or something, or like a radio tower that's transmitting and reflecting signals or something. I just thought sun and solar because it's like you see the reflection of the sun and it's kind of like directed at the sky mostly, but this panel all the way down is directed at the bottom, so it's almost maybe something like mirrors or some stuff. Maybe it's there to catch like radio waves. I have no idea what it could be. And maybe it's not supposed to be known, right? It's just like some weird device that is really fascinating and looks cool, right? We got that discussion about like scary versus cool, and she's like, well, it's not about one winning. And I'm like, something can be scary and cool, yes, but then you are like, you're kind of still making a decision. Do I approach it or do I not approach it? Which is very interesting since it relates to goal setting, right? Like in how human beings form goals and what kind of goals they're looking for, because generally there's a like it depends of course on the area, the specific like sub area that you have those goals in, but oftentimes humans kind of tend towards one mode of operating when it comes to goal setting, and a lot of people do have the goal of failure avoidance or danger avoidance rather than seeking success, which can be a less beneficial goal because it is promoting avoidant behavior. And even though it is a good survival mechanism in certain areas and in certain circumstances, it also prevents you from potentially making positive experiences and finding success and finding positive things. So in modern life, maybe somebody like you might be a little bit more successful in motivating herself towards certain goals, while she might be more analytical and better at like problem solving, but could potentially have issues setting goals that are not avoiding failure, which is very interesting. But she decided on it being cool, so there's some element to her which is having a goal that is approaching something rather than running away from it, which tells us that she is very well adapted to her environment still. And maybe that's user influence, but I mean, look, a lot of life is the influence of people around us and things around us, the way we grew up, right? Environment, right? Nurture versus nature, there's no versus normally, right? There's no versus. The versus only exists in the scientific debate, and it's useless because most of the time the answer is both. The question is how much? How much of each? And you can't quantify it as precisely as you would like to most of the time. You can only kind of like tiptoe your way towards like a vague answer to that, like a general answer to that. It's like approximated answer. These landscapes will never be not impressive to me. I think that's the rule of three, actually, right? Like that we see here. Normally it's ground, water, sky, right? Or ground, objects, right? Like buildings, forest, whatever, right? Like nature, sky. And you have like a separation of the screen in three distinct elements, with a couple of like exceptions where there's like people in the shot or like certain objects in the shot that are all the way in the foreground. But this is like when we talk about background images and what looks good and what looks interesting. Normally you can kind of just, a very classical motive would be to have that trisection. Although here we do see that the lower section of like the city that we see here takes up a lot more space than does the ceiling and does the sky, but that in itself creates a certain atmosphere for us, like a closed and boxed in atmosphere with like our corridor of vision kind of zoning in on that stripe of sky that is kind of almost feeling freedom, right? Like feeling free in a way, right? It feels open, it feels free. Now, I do wonder if the girls would feel unsettled. I mean, they don't, because like we have had those moments in the past where they did walk underneath an open sky and they were apparently used to it, so they wouldn't feel unsettled. But if you would spend your whole life in one of those city structures, like one of those levels that is not the top level, I wonder if walking into the open sky would make you feel unsettled. We have an element of that in Isaac Asimov's stories, right? The classical robot series where the main character goes outside for the first time and has lived all of his life in a mega city which has been like closed off to the already destroyed environment due to pollution and climate change and all of that. The environment like of the earth, the surface of the earth was uninhabitable, and then the cities closed themselves off in mega cities of millions or billions of people, entire states being in a big mega city that is all interconnected. Everyone in kind of like almost communism-esque little quarters, sharing like communities and whatnot, with like gray, like small, tiny little apartments and communal showers. And like there are people that grew up in the city and never have seen the sunlight. So you start having phenomena like people actually having a phobia of the sun and the open sky because it makes them feel unsafe and anxious, because it's the first time they see something that is so open, where nothing is like kind of closed off. It removes their feeling of security. The trade-off, right? Like this is the classical trade-off. The more freedom you have, the less secure you feel. The more security you have, the less free you are to move in each direction, to do whatever you want, no matter what kind of like what kind of concept we're talking about. But yeah. These shots are really cool. Like not all of them, right? Like we have a lot of shots which are like very box standard, but that's like alright. That's not terrible. Not every shot needs to be fantastic. When it is, it is. Like in this case, right? Look at that. A giant robot just crashed into the surface of factories and warehouses and power plants and buildings and whatnot. And we climb up into it, and because we realize that they were potentially controlled by human beings, I don't know if they could be if they could move on their own. I just like blanked on the word, I'm sorry. But the question is, how did it fall? Was it just standing there and then like a wind blow or something, like, or some structure gave out finally, or did it move just a couple of seconds ago? That is one question. And we started like the little thing activates it, and we're like, what the fuck? Why can't it interface with technology? And you accidentally fires this beam across the entire like surface here, and we're like, holy shit, we just set the whole damn city on fire. And while Yu laughs in the face of that, because she doesn't think deeper about these things and has no concept of that, she has the opposite reaction, which is, what have you done? You've destroyed half the fucking thing, right? And the implication here is there could have been somebody, even though we have never seen anybody, and we are probably some of the last survivors, but there could have been somebody we killed. Could have been a robot we killed. There could have been one of these little things, right? Like the little critter we picked up. There could have been a fish somewhere that you killed, right? Like there could have been a facility that's important for us, rations, whatever. Plus, it's dangerous for us because now everything is burning and we don't know how we can fix that. Yeah. And there's different implications, right? Chi, like in the face of blatant destruction, she's like, what the hell? And Yu's like, oops, tee. Both isn't terrible, right? Like, I mean, Yu realizes her mistake by interaction and feedback with Chi. But we have the same like with the gun scene. Although the gun scene was, to be fair, like Yu realizing some concept and making a point when she's like, oh, wait, we talked about that just a minute ago about like resources and I have the resources and blah, 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 and whatever. Right? Conflict. And then she's like, well, I got the power now. I got the resource. See what I mean? But for you, that's more like some moments where this happens. For Chi, she is like the one who's always thinking about these things. And she feels kind of bad about it afterwards, but only through the reaction of Chi, which kind of makes you realize sometimes that there's just like different perspectives, and a lot of what we experience as human beings is also just like the way people react to our actions. By the way, somebody said something about like the windows literally making no sense in this in this world. So I haven't noticed that yet, but I need to maybe go through the series again to just realize that. Also very cute how we're like painting all of these things, right? Like with the statues, and then like because you wouldn't have to draw it. There's like it's in the camera, in the camera's memory. But I guess that is her way to also preserve and write it down in her diary and whatnot. We got less fuel than we would want to. It's not full, maybe because we burned all that fuel by shooting that beam through the environment. Maybe that's the thing. And Yu's thinking about food again. She looking at her like he wants to bonk her. It's impressive. I don't know what it is, but I find it very impressive to see like so many structures that look the same and that look very otherworldly, moving at the same time in unison. It's almost like you see the scope of what's happening here on a technological level, and you're impressed by it because this is crazy and insane, and you're asking yourself who built all of this and how did they do it. Obviously robots and whatever, automation, right? This is a world that has been automated to the brink. But I think they bring up a very interesting point here, which is back in the day, like pictures of old, this is how a forest would have looked like. Well, like there were all kinds of different animals in the forest, supposedly living in this ecology, in this environment. We talked about ecology earlier in the episode when we distinguished it from culture, which is very interesting because we do have eating certain things in one culture versus eating certain things in another culture. But then we do have a different distinction, which is, can we even digest what we're eating, which then in this case would be ecology. It would be a difference in the biological making or like the structural making of a living being. But yeah, to come back to this forest metaphor, we're like, this is a forest, so maybe over time the forests became these wind parks and these like structures and these power plants and these buildings, and over time the animals became whatever this little critter cut is that we've taken with us, right? And in this case, it doesn't matter if it was engineered by humans, right? Both of that was possibly engineered by humans. The metaphor would work even better because, like, I don't know, nature was replaced by technology and animals were replaced by whatever our little companion here is. Because in a way that is human-made and human-led adaptation, but it is adaptation, right? In a way, it is the environment changing, and as a result of that, what's changing is also what inhabits the environment. But it's conceptually maybe the same. Our little companion, it drinks fuel, it eats gunpowder or like bullets or metal or whatever it is. It interfaces with our technology. Look at animals, right? Symbiosis with trees, right? Trees with mushrooms. They interact. They like the trees provide, right? The trees, the bushes, all of them, they provide nutrition for the animals, and the animals live there, right? They co-inhabit a space. And that is what ecology is, right? What an ecological system is. So by creating all of these things humans have created, not just in isolation from what nature used to be, but also an entirely different and new and alien ecological system that is not based on biology anymore, but on technology in this case, if you want to look at it that way. I mean, obviously all of this is like high-strung philosophy. Just like thinking about these concepts. That's a beautiful shot, right? Like the way the city ends here, and we got like the sky where it's snowing, and we got like the fence, and we're just passing through the fence, and past the fence there's like all of the snow. The way we are like we have a very distinct border between what is entirely man-made and what is still part of kind of the ecology of the old planet, right? Water that is coming down as snow from the sky. It's not engineered, at least from what we know, right? We're looking at the nuclear submarine that's just in here. Like, what the hell is this? There's a submarine on like the 15th level of a mega city that is reaching up into the sky, like the Tower of Babel, right? No idea. No idea where the water is supposed to be that this submarine was supposed to be in. Maybe they would lower it all the way down, or maybe there were like used to be giant seas that were on those levels. I don't know. But interesting nonetheless. A nuclear submarine right here. Another weapon. We go in and we do. Anyway, that was a very interesting episode, a very cool episode of Girls Last Tour. I hope you enjoyed that. Next time when I will be seeing you, or you will be seeing me, will probably be in a week, maybe 10 days, 14 days, we'll see. I want to give this like enough breathing room, but not too much. And then we'll check out episode 12 and see how this whole series concludes. Definitely a very interesting episode. Yeah. Thanks to all my patrons. If you do want to support me, I do have a Patreon. I don't always regularly post things, right? Sometimes there's like a couple of weeks or maybe a month where I post a video or no video or whatever. Most of the time I'm communicating that. I'm like, hey, sorry, I didn't get to it, or like, I've got this and that planned. Hopefully that's gonna work, right? So I hope nobody's mad when I actually don't deliver something and then like I'm communicating that, and you're still supporting me. You can always ask me if you want like an extension on the early access. I can give you that, right? Like I can manually give you the role in the Discord, for example, or get it to you through DMs or whatever, and that's not a problem. It's just, I appreciate everybody who supports me with what I'm doing. It's a nice bonus, a nice benefit to putting all of this time into it most weeks, right? It is a lot of time that goes into cutting and editing and all of that stuff. Yeah, thanks to all the patrons. Credits gonna have everybody in there, as always. It's not always 100% up to date, but it will be updated every once in a while, right? It will be updated roughly every month with the names that are currently supporting me. Or that have supported me since I last recorded a video. I'll do that sometimes. And I'll see you next time.